Hello, and welcome everybody. I am Smitty2447 or Ryan Smith. This is a special stream that we're doing today. Again, you can see I've got my friend here, Keith Kayle. I've just had the opportunity to get to know him and work with him and stuff like that. So it's like, hey, come on the show, talk to people, and we want this to be open as well. So please, whether you're on Trovo, whether you're on Twitch, Facebook, wherever you're at, YouTube, wherever, please drop your questions in the chat, and we'll try our best to get to them and get down and do the thing. So, again, thank you guys so much for joining us. Keith, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing, my friend?
I am very well, and thank you for having me. It's
Absolutely.
a real pleasure. It's an honor, really. To be truthful with you, it's an honor.
No, I feel like the honor is all ours, and we're going to get into it here in a little bit. But, currently, if you guys don't know, Keith also produces a podcast, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's just some of the talks that you have really. I feel they kind of rely on your life's experience and what you've done throughout your life and how it's affected you. Just tell us, like, with your podcast, what you're doing. Give us a kind of a very broad. Here's who Keith Kayle is. Here's how I've gotten from where I started to where I am today.
Well, as a 30-year business owner, and spending all of that time growing and learning and going through a bunch of stuff, as a result of all of those experiences, personally and professionally, I've acquired a great wisdom about a lot of things that people either never were privileged enough to receive in their lives, or many of us just need to be reminded of the value that we each carry with us. The world, as we know, will gladly pound us on a daily basis for no reason whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And the podcasts really focus on returning us to a center where our value is most important, because the world wants to steal it from us.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to what you're talking about, what you've got going on, what you're talking about in terms of the podcast and your topics within them. You just released today, actually, your work-life balance series, which I feel is, especially this day and age, everybody could use, just talking about this topic. Tell me, what was it that drew you to wanting to talk about that work-life balance? Because I feel like a lot of us do struggle with being able to properly prioritize that time.
Well, it originally started after, chatting with some people that I work with over the past couple of years, that we're having difficulty when between jobs. The American society is set up to where, the employer is the one that's all powerful and all knowing and all controlling. And we go to work and we put in our 10 or 12 hours or whatever it is we do. And when we suddenly lose that job, we're under the false assumption that our job represents our value. Mm-hmm. And that's just simply not true. We take all of the experiences from that job with us to the next job. So we haven't really lost anything. We've gained something, but society says that we are less than because we are in between jobs. I've lived it. I know what it feels like. It's terrible. It's just an incorrect perspective.
And, what are some, I guess, maybe tools or things that people can do to kind of change that mindset? Because I feel like it's also a mindset that has been kind of drilled into us since we were kids, grind it out and do this, and you're trying to be successful, but within the pursuit of that success, and I'll do it in quotation marks, because success is really in the eye of the beholder. What is it that a person can do to then kind of shift that mindset?
Well, I think that as we grow into adulthood, our focus is narrow. They're not so vast. They're not so wide and so open. And so when our primary focus is eliminated, that being our occupation, we feel we have a sense of loss. We feel lost. And whenever we feel this way because we have lost touch with ourselves.
Yeah.
We have lost touch with our values. Like, for instance, when I'm working with somebody, I'll say, okay, when you got up this morning, did you wake up with an alarm clock or did you just roll out of bed at 10:30? 99% of them say I woke up with an alarm clock. And I say, okay, well, right there, that says about you that you are responsible.
Right.
Now, there are people in this world that are not responsible, but we as human beings, we tend to overlook this exceptionally valuable asset. And then I say to them, well, what did you do next? Well, I went and got the kids out of bed and I helped them make lunch. Well, okay. So you're an incredible parent as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're not only responsible to yourself, but you're responsible and loving towards your children to make sure they have the food they need before they go to school. So what I'm doing is I'm rebuilding their value and I'm putting it to them in a very no-nonsense, common sense way that allows them to lift themselves off the floor and rise to the people that they actually are and not the people that they have been reduced to thinking they are.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask too, and especially when it comes to you go and you'll speak to different groups. You'll speak at events, you'll do one-on-one conversations with folks, and then you've also, of course, have the podcast as well, so people are able to hear what you're talking about. What is it, do you think, that drew you to wanting to get this message out, wanting to be able to connect with people around the world and just have conversations with them?
Well, I mean, I love people. I mean, there was a long period of time in my life when I I did not like people at all, because I didn't like myself
right,
at all, and I didn't know myself at all. So the things that I speak about, I understand because I used to be that. I used to live that,
right,
and it didn't work. And as a result of discovering that it didn't work, I also discovered the solution. And so, I've been planning on doing, counseling and public speaking for years now. Now is just the time when I'm pulling the trigger. This isn't a, oh yeah, that's a good idea kind of thing. This has been in my heart and in my mind for years. And I'm just now bringing it to the public. The other thing is I'm a firm believer in trying. I did not want to get to my last bed I'm ever going to lay in and think back on my life and say, you moron, you should have done that. I would rather look back on it and say, I gave it my best shot. It was either this or it was that, but I tried. I gave it 100%. My heart was fully engaged. My mind was fully engaged. And I shared the wisdom that I've acquired. Because if everything that I've been through, I don't share the wisdom that I've acquired because of those things, then all of the suffering that I've been through was wasted. It was for nothing.
It's interesting that you say that too, because I feel like in my life, that's something I've always felt that, I want to live as hardcore as I can. And I don't mean it in the sense like being reckless, but to the point where when it is time and it's my time to go, I don't want to have any regrets. I want to say I did it to the max. I did life to the max. I did all kinds of things. We connected with a bunch of people. We were able to help out, and I feel like, again, at the end of the day, being able to leave the world better than when you came in is something that I firmly believe in.
Amen. I'm with you. I do it every day. That's the way I live today. I try to leave every situation that I'm presented with better than I found it. But again, and I need to say this because it's simply the truth, that is not always the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just was not always that way. And as a result of, a ton of growth and introspection and maturity and courage, today I live as a man that I want to be, not the man that I was taught to be.
Right.
So incredibly valuable. If I know that there's an awful lot of people either listening or elsewhere that can relate to leaving a situation better than you find it, so forth and so on. I happen to believe that judgment is probably one of the top reasons why more people can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
They point the finger too quickly, as opposed to saying, I'm flawed too. Let's see what we can do to make it better together.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, that I feel like a lot of times folks get in their own way. I've always felt that, my own worst enemy is myself. The only thing or person that can stop me from accomplishing something is myself. And, it's always the constant struggle. You have things like imposter syndrome, especially a lot of folks, that came into like the streaming space or starting a new endeavor. You're like, man, am I doing the right thing? I feel like a fake, this and that. And those are really difficult feelings to overcome. What would be some advice that you would give someone that's feeling that way? That's just like, I need to break out of this. I'm here for a reason.
Well, I think again we need to go back to reacquainting ourselves with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very difficult to clear the clouds and the gray from within us if we're still confused or if we've lost touch with who we actually are. And so, the idea of paying attention to the things that you do every day that are good,
Mm-hmm.
and they can be small. Daddy, can you pump up my tire on my bike? Well, sure. Give me 10 minutes. I'll be right there. Okay. He's a good parent. He's loving because he's going to take care of it. He doesn't even think twice about it. Human beings tend to overlook these acts of love simply because they happen so often. It doesn't mean that they're not valuable. It doesn't mean that they're not an example of the value of a human being. And so once we've reacquired a relationship with ourselves, this helps kill the fear that's at the foundation of many, many things. Including imposter syndrome. What that is that's doubt.
Right.
That's what that is. And doubt is foundationalized on fear. And I could get into some little more technical things. But we all had parents at some point, and sometimes the parents can live within us even though their living there is not necessarily positive. And so when we get the angry finger pointing kind of feeling like we're being punished or ridiculed or alienated, these are all horribly difficult things to feel. But if they're not foundationalized on fact, this is what we need to reacquire is a relationship with the truth. Not what we're thinking going on inside of our head when our emotional systems are a little bit ajar and our our inner strength is a little bit weaker because we're in between jobs, so forth and so on. But I'm telling you, folks, reacquiring a relationship with yourself that's clear, based on fact now, not on opinion, this is the widest road to your next success.
I love that. And I kind of want to shift gears just a little bit here. Over on your website, keithkayle.com, we talked a little bit about the fact that you have one-on-one sessions. What can somebody expect if they were looking to get into this, or if they're, I can see here on the website as well, you can schedule a session directly on the website. What could one expect using those services?
Well, I mean, everybody's going to be an individual,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that a person A responds to anxiety is going to be different than person B. I absolutely do not believe in cookie cutter uh, remedies or fixes or solutions, because I'm different from you, you're different from me, and we're different from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And our emotional systems and our life experiences, along with our interpretation of those life experiences, makes us who we are. And so my job really is to listen very intently and to actually feel what I'm hearing, and then we go from there. I'm fluid. I'm fluid in anxiety, and I'm fluid in depression, and I'm fluid in fear, and I'm fluid in trauma, and I'm fluid in self-doubt and self-loathing. I know these things well because I lived them for decades. And so helping someone out of that, I'm literally using my wisdom. It's not something I read in a book. It's something I've lived.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there, and now I'm here. And so helping whoever it is, bless their heart. Um, it doesn't take years to fix this kind of stuff. It just takes understanding where the problem is laying at its deepest place. Let's gently bring it out. We'll break it apart. We'll gently look at it, and we'll understand it. And it is through understanding that these difficulties go away.
Yeah. What would you say, I guess, to, because I feel like, and again, kind of touching back on the point of folks being their own worst enemy. I know that there's times where the answer is right there, it's right in front of a person, but they don't want to see it, even though, hey, I'm right here, here's the solution. But
Yeah.
the solution is that means you got to shed that safety net, you got to shed that
Yeah.
safety blanket, and
Yeah.
go and get it. And I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, or there are people out there that struggle being able to move forward like that, and get even though that resolution is going to be a positive change in your life, they kind of get stuck in this negative cycle, and that's just turned into their safety blanket.
Yeah. Well, the safety boat that you're talking about is really a prison cell.
Mm.
And in a lot of cases, the prison cell is built within us by someone else. And
Mm-hmm.
we get comfortable in there, even though it's terribly limiting, and we're comfortable with our being uncomfortable, and we're comfortable with being limited as human beings, because we have not experienced limitless. We have not experienced true joy, true
Mm-hmm.
freedom. And I know a lot about both sides of that as well. Um, the other thing is that when I run into someone, or I'm talking with somebody, working with somebody, and they're having difficulty with grasping a different way of thinking, well, what we do is we learn about why this is beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's up to them. I mean, I can talk for days, right? But if they're not willing, I can't make them willing. I mean, I just got to a place in my own life where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, period. and I needed to do something else or I was going to die,
Right.
literally. And so, you know, look, there's nothing exceptional about me, really, truly. I'm just a guy that's gone through a ton of stuff, and I've come out the other side, and now I'm sharing it with all of you folks. And helping people is when I'm at my best. It's when I'm at my most joyous. It's when I'm at my most um, fortunate
Mhm.
because I can do it and because I can feel it. I am not a clinical minded person that sits there and nods and says, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm feeling what you're feeling, which allows me a much greater advantage as far as helping you or whomever quicker. I mean, if we can stop your suffering in 2 months instead of 2 years, who in their right mind wouldn't want that?
Right.
As long as the willingness is there to at least explore the options and the reasons why the behavior or the feelings or this relationship, I can't have a healthy relationship with another human being kind of thing. Why are these things actually happening? It isn't about beating the client up. It's about sharing with them the wisdom that I have acquired because I used to beat myself up every day,
Mhm.
right? So everybody's different. You might present your issue that's the same issue as Mrs. Jones,
Right.
but Mrs. Jones and you are different. And the words that you use, I'm listening to and I'm feeling. And so my approach with you, even though the problem is the same, is probably going to be different than Mrs. Jones because she's using words that are coming from her being, not yours.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that absolutely makes sense. I just want to take a second, real quick, and do a little reset here. We are here with Keith Kayle. Check out his website over at keithkayle.com, or you can find him on YouTube as well. Search again Keith Kayle for that info. So, Keith, this has been fantastic conversation. I want to kind of go into your first series when you started this journey going through with your podcast, the Love series. There are so many great episodes that really I feel people they're really relatable, and I feel like if you haven't, number one, you should go check them out. But there's a lot of great information in there. Tell me, where did the inspiration for that series comes from, and what would you hope that people get from that series?
Well, yeah, my upbringing was not good at all. And so I was never exposed to love. Those words were never spoken in my house ever. I don't ever remember those words being directed at me ever. No hugs, no nothing. Right. So as I went into adulthood, uh, I knew absolutely nothing about love. Absolutely nothing. I didn't know how to have a healthy relationship with another human being. I didn't know how to have a healthy relationship with myself because I didn't know who I was. Uh, I had no real foundation that a lot of people are privileged to have. And so when I went through this massive, you know, uh, 17, 18-year transition from where I was to where I am today I live in a state of love. I'm talking to all of you from my heart, not my mind. And so, of course, the thing that I feel first when I wake up is love for a sunny day, or I'm going to do this today, or I'm going to help that person today. I am participating in this life from a place of love. And because I didn't have it as a child at all, it's given me a deeper understanding of it because I don't have a lot of old ideas that I need to adjust along the way. I'm just experiencing love uh, in its purest form. And I've had a great opportunity to watch people around me that are close to me and not close to me, people that I'm working with, and they tend to confuse love. Love is not complicated. It's
Hmm.
not. I'll give you an example of, and everybody's going to be able to relate to this if you've been in love before at all. So you're in a relationship, the relationship doesn't go well. You're in love, no doubt, both of you. Things just don't work out. Now there's some incredible pain associated with that. And so you do your healing or whatever, and you either start dating again or you take some time off, whatever the case is. Nonetheless, you have this wound that's going to heal or it's not going to heal. So as we move through life, we tend to shy away from love, which is the single greatest emotion that a human being can feel, bar none, not even close to anything else. Yet we're going to run from it, we're going to hide from it, we're going to distort it, we're going to sabotage it, we're going to reject it in our lives in spite of the fact that it is the most beautiful emotion that a human being can possibly feel. I'll give you a correlation. Woman's driving down the road doing 35 miles an hour. She crosses an intersection. Bam, she gets T-boned on the passenger side, right? Bad
Hmm.
crash. She goes to the hospital. They let her out of the hospital. She's got bruises. She's going to be fine. 2 days later, the same woman is in the dealership going to buy a brand new car to get back on the road where she was almost killed. You see? We
Hmm.
run from we run from love because it's painful, yet we'll get back into a car where we could be killed in 2 days.
Right.
So, I am completely unafraid of love at all because I know what its wondrous glory is. I know its power, and I am unafraid of it. So the podcasts in the love series are really about uh, the reasoning behind why loving in this life is so valuable, whether it's your children or your parents or your uncle or your brother or your neighbor or your people that you work with or your intimate lover, whatever it is. Love needs to be a greater part of our lives because it's what matters most. Literally, what matters most.
Well, I think it's really interesting too that you talked about just the external love. I think a part of love that I feel that a lot of people neglect is self love and making sure that you are also taking care of yourself. How do you take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself and making sure
Yeah.
that your needs are being met and just you feel that you have this fulfilling life.
Yes.
What would some advice be on I know a lot of people and I'm guilty as well, will beat themselves up if they make a mistake or something doesn't go their way. What would be your advice to someone that kind of has that mentality and that thought?
Well, I laugh because I say something to some people that I know quite well concerning that. Um, Self-hatred and self-loathing are taught. They're learned. They're not coming from the self. They've been absorbed by another source: parents, brother, sister, work, boss, social media, whatever it is. Um, and so we need to work on the process of unlearning those lies about ourselves. I believe very strongly in looking inward as the final frontier of this living experience. And people, and I'm talking about everybody, is afraid to look at who they are because they're afraid they're going to find like an axe murderer or something in there. I got news for you. If you were an axe murderer, that would have happened already. I mean, literally, right? So, I mean, only thing you're going to find inside of yourself is some beautiful stuff you just haven't bothered to look at. Literally. most people are inherently good, and some of us are amazing, right?
Mm.
And so looking inward is not something to fear, but something to gently acknowledge and accept and then enhance, because we all have incredible, beautiful parts of our being that for one reason or another may have been pushed out of the way or set aside or ignored or shunned even. And so the self-hatred really is it's actually an inability to love oneself, because that loving oneself, we have to know what we're loving.
Hmm.
So again, we're going all the way back to what we first talked about when we talked about reacquainting ourselves with ourselves. It's not unusual at all for people to get just so stuck emotionally and mentally that they can't find their way out of that ditch. They just can't. And so when they come and they see me, whether we're talking on the phone or we're doing Zoom or whatever it is we're doing, uh, this is where I come in to lend them the hand that they need, to throw them the rope or hand them the ladder or whatever, or just show them the love that they are worthy of. You know,
Hmm.
love is an exceptionally powerful asset if we know how to use it, if we know how to apply it when and where. And people that are dealing with self-loathing issues, they just have an underlying fear of people knowing who they actually are. And so they pound on the top and limit their abilities so nobody has an opportunity to see how beautiful they actually are. Yeah.
Yeah, and let me ask you too: what would make a what's the word I'm looking for? A person, I guess, who would be a good fit to come in and see you? Because I mean, I'm my guess would be that, and like many other things, maybe somebody doesn't they're not comfortable with it, or
Sure.
they're not ready to get to a point where they're having those kinds of conversations. Like, how do you
Sure.
connect with people, and how are you getting people to say, come in and want to have a conversation and open up to you?
Well, I think the podcasts are really a representation and an opportunity for everyone really to see my heart. I mean, there's not a word that I'm speaking right now. There's not a word in any one of those podcasts that isn't coming directly from my heart. My mind can't feel anything. My
Hmm.
heart can feel a great amount. And so, whoever is going to come and chat with me, um, they are going to get authenticity. They are going to get personal, and it's safe because I have lived what their problem is. Now, deciding to pull the trigger on coming to see me or having a Zoom conference or whatever it is, talking on the phone, whatever it is, um, that has to start with the self. I can't make anybody do anything, and I'm not interested in that. What I
Hmm.
can do, uh, I can offer my wisdom, and I can offer my heart, and I can offer some love and some compassion to those that are just stuck and they need to get unstuck. Um, Look, I tried to get unstuck for 20 years. I
Hmm.
was not capable of it. I didn't have someone like me, but I was not capable of fixing myself or digging myself out of that rut. It has to come um, from a loving, compassionate soul that is outside of me, that can understand me and feel what I'm going through, and thus provide me with knowledge, with wisdom, with understanding, with direction, with a plan of why this needs to happen. Not
Hmm.
just don't do that anymore, but here's why you shouldn't do that anymore. And here's what happens when you stop doing that anymore, whatever it is.
Hmm.
So, obviously folks have to make the decision or not as to whether or not what they're hearing they think is authentic or if they think I'm full of garbage. Um, I know what the truth is, but all I can do is sit here with beautiful people like you and expose my heart to whomever is listening and whomever isn't. And if the value is there, they will come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Let me just touch future plans for the podcast. Do you have what do you have cooking up in the background here in terms of future series, certain subjects or topics that you
Sure.
have in mind that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Um, I'm going to be doing quite a lengthy series on addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's you know, alcoholism alone kills 2.8 million people on the surface of this planet every year. Now,
Mm-hmm.
2.8 million people doesn't really sound like a huge amount, but folks, that is 300 people an hour, every hour of every
Jeez.
day of the year. That changes your perspective. So addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol or the other types of addictions that destroy lives, both the afflicted and the people that are trying to love the person who is afflicted. The people, this part is going to be both for the person who is addicted to something, but I think more so for the people that are not, that are in the presence of. And I'll tell you why. Once you have an addictive brain, it's in the gene pool, by the way, addiction in the gene pool. It's not, I drank, 30 beers 3 times and now I'm an alcoholic kind of thing. No,
Right.
it's in the gene pool like high blood pressure or diabetes. And if you don't have an addictive brain, you cannot ever understand what a person with an addiction problem thinks or feels because it is a brain disorder. Our thinking is skewed, our perspectives are skewed, and life is very, very difficult to live. And so we seek self medication, drugs, alcohol, what? Even if we start off in college and we're just partying because that's what you do when you're in college, there can come a time when there's a switch that's triggered in the gene pool, and now you have an issue with it. And people without an addictive brain need to learn, if they have someone in the family or a friend or a neighbor that's suffering from some type of addiction, they need to fully understand as best as they can the behaviors and how to treat it, what to do about it, what perspective to have, because it can be incredibly painful and damaging to those that watch or live with or are married to someone with an addiction. Incredibly painful. Look, folks, there's only one word there's 1.6 million words in the English language. 1.6 million. Too many, right? There's only one. There's only one that describes addiction perfectly. That's ruthless. Completely absent of care or concern. Doesn't care about anything except staying strong and active in the person that it's infected. And so addiction is one thing. I'm going to be doing another series on relationships, whether it's mother, daughter, father, son, husband, wife, relatives, neighbors, coworkers. There's an awful lot of people out there, and I'm telling you, I used to be all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was just incapable. I just was never taught. And what I was taught was absolutely worthless, just worthless, just because I wasn't taught how to do it when I was supposed to have been taught. Doesn't mean that I can't learn how to do it based on logic and a simple understanding of myself. And then I can convey my true self to the people around me. And it's amazing what happens. People actually respond in a nice way instead of this guy's got to go, right? So, uh, so I want to do that as well. That's about as far down the line I've thought. That's, months worth of podcasts. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm sure that things are going to come up between now and then that I'll just, take notes on, and so on and so on. But these are things that people think they know, and bless their hearts, they just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And um, it needs to be talked about, and the facts need to be laid out on the table. This is what it is.
Right.
Whatever you've heard is wrong if it doesn't match what I'm saying to you. I mean, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for almost 19 years. I know addiction. It almost killed me. And I also know recovery. And I know how the addictive brain works when it's early in sobriety, before sobriety, and when you get to my level. And if by some, strange set of circumstances I can save somebody's life, or I can save some people's lives simply because I know what I know and I'm willing to share it, well, then that's a pretty good thing, I think.
Absolutely. It's a blessing, because you're right. Addiction, it not only affects directly the person involved, but then the people around them. And it's
Sure.
I know that there's so many people out there that can relate to it in one form or another, and how it's affected their life. So I'm really looking forward to seeing and hearing that series and everything that you've got going in terms of that.
Sure.
We're getting close to ending here. I just wanted to kind of end with give us some closing thoughts in terms of life in general, something that people can walk away from this stream with and take with them.
Don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't be afraid to love and to give. It feels good. And just remember that when we love, we are giving it away without expectation of getting it in return. That's it.
My man. My man. Keith, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. Guys, make sure go to Keith. I'm gonna drop it in chat as well. KeithKayle.com. You can contact him. You can find the podcast there. Everything that you need or what Keith has going on, you can find here on the website. So make sure you check that out. Also, don't forget over on YouTube, Keith Kayle. You should be able to find. I'm just gonna bring this down real quick and then pop it up. There it is. You can find, again, his podcasts are there, so you can listen to them. You can watch them. It's got beautiful imagery, his amazing voice, and that knowledge and wisdom that he is laying down on us. Again, it's awesome to be able to listen to them and just taking the conversations and what he's saying and being able to apply that to your own life and stuff. There's so much value I feel in this. And, whether you're struggling or dealing with something, really big or really heavy to something small and you just need to, get some stuff off your chest or have an ear that's going to listen, Keith is going to be your person. So please make sure you go check out his stuff, KeithKayle.com, and over on YouTube, Keith Kayle. Again, Keith, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Yes, and everybody, happy early gobble day. I hope you're able to spend it with friends, family, enjoy it, get some rest. It's been a grind, so let's take some time, reset. Also, that means that some folks can start decorating for the holidays and whatnot. So just enjoy it. Don't go crazy with Black Friday stuff. Be safe. It's just things. What's important is spending that time with your families and friends and making those memories. That's stuff that you'll be able to move forward with. Paulo, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, my friend.
I'm grateful to you too, Paulo.
Absolutely. The man behind the curtain. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Thank you guys again so much for joining us. Don't forget, check out the website, check out everything that's going on. We appreciate your faces. Happy holidays. Be safe. And we'll see you guys real soon. Bye.